Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Temy. Temy is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast, where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. And each week, we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. I'm your host, Barry. Now, today we're lucky enough to have a remarkable guest joining us, Jiahao Sun, who is a founder and CEO at Flock. Hello, Jiahao. Welcome to the
Hey, hey,
podcast.
hey, Barry.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
It's our pleasure. So, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us. We really do appreciate it. And before we begin, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the company that you work at?
All right. So I've been working in AI industry for like past 10 years as director of AI of a leading financial institution, and meanwhile, research fellow in Imperial College London. So at that time I was looking into this finance industry. Like there are so many data silos and privacy issues between the companies, and then if you want to do something big or making some cooperation, makes things so impossible, right? So that's where I had an idea about developing Flock, a technology that can actually secure your local data but can still collaborate and model together. So yeah, that's where the story starts.
Were you always interested in AI, or was that something that gradually
Yeah,
developed?
yeah, yeah. Started in school, and at that time, AI was actually a textbook course because that was before all this graphic cards hype and everything. So people thought AI was like, yes, it's algorithm which developed in 1960s, and it can help you calculate 2 plus 3 is 5, and that's it. Because there's no compute power to actually make it do even better or even powerful things, right? And so I took the course. I did my first project like doing rock paper scissors using neural network to compete with human beings. That's my like first AI projects in school, and then until I graduate, suddenly the AI hype came in because of these graphic cards, and now then AI deep learning that can distinguish cat and dogs, that can play Go with people, right? That's all happening around that 2014 time. So that was also my interest, but I just didn't expect that hype goes so quick, like until like even recently GPT hype, right?
Are you constantly surprised by the rate of progress in the AI field?
Yeah. I mean, get used to it now. So in the beginning, yes, I was surprised by what we learned from textbook to what in the industry are having, right? For example, AlphaGo or even AlphaFold, who's actually helping the whole healthcare industry, right? And then nowadays, the movement of GPT is definitely astonishing. Like from GPT 3.5, 4, 4.0, and 5 soon in the future. That's quicker even than people's imagination.
So you've always been very interested in AI. How about like being an entrepreneur, developing your own company? Was that something that you also had a taste for when you were younger?
Yeah, yeah, that was my not on purpose, but right after school, we graduated from Oxford, and then that time Entrepreneur First. I don't know whether I can mention their name. So it's a incubator. They came to our school, and then they say, you guys don't have to interview for Google if you what do they say? If you can walk into Google, don't start your own company, something like that. Yes. So they say, we can compensate you for the monthly allowance, and then you can do your own startup. So that's actually my first taste. Basically, right after school, I never did any interview. I just go straight into incubator and had my first company.
Was that a good thing that you managed to go straight into the field directly after school?
Yeah, that gave me some. I mean, that is for real. I didn't expect myself, have for fund a company right out of school. But then, if someone push you through, and then you meet with the top entrepreneurs in the market at that time, and VCs investors, it actually gives you a good sense of how the market looks like, right? Even though like after those experience, I step back. Oh, sorry, back. I step back into the corporate life for like 8 9 years, but I still have that entrepreneurship in my blood, kind of. So whatever I do in a traditional financial industry is still very innovative, right? It's still, I mean, at that time we were the first to sponsoring top academic conferences. We're the first to having those AI um, applications in house with ourselves. So that's, yeah, I think that definitely changed my mindset. Even if I was in a old school corporate style.
So we will come back to AI in a minute.
Yeah.
But can you just share your journey with us and just elucidate like how your company came into existence? You touched on it briefly, but could you go into a little bit more depth?
Yeah, so Flock is actually a pun. It's a combination of federated learning and blockchain, right? Flock. So the it's actually a technical term where we publish papers about to describe how it works, why it's important to have a blockchain into this federated learning framework. So yeah, federated learning framework it appears around 2017. Google, Apple, they're now all doing it to predict your typing habits or personal preferences on your phone, right? But then they claim that your data never sent out to any third party. It stays local, but because it's a centralized training, they can say so, but nobody can prove it's wrong. And there are actually scandals. You probably know one of the input software, typing software who claim they're doing federated learning, but actually are sending back your raw data. So yeah, it's always good to claim you have privacy, user privacy, but then in terms of the cost of training, people might still want to get your raw data, right? I understand, yes, but we need to value users' privacy. So that's why we want a blockchain to join this training mechanism. So we don't have to believe in any centralized nodes or centralized controllers, right? It's all decentralized consensus, and you don't have to believe in or give your face to any third party. You are the controller of your own data, your own model, and then you have the voting rights, validation rights in the whole training. So yeah, that's what we're trying to build.
When you discovered that, did it come as a surprise for you, especially like with the laws and the strictness of GDPR and data protection? Are you constantly surprised at how maybe to the layman our data isn't as safe as we would think it would be?
Yeah, to be honest, yeah. So if you nowadays, I think there are many vendors even in the market, right? If you put down your name and address, they will reach out to help you take down your data from places. If you check it out, maybe like 100 of those institutions have your data already, right? So yes, surprised, and also especially when we log on to a website, many of us don't really read the cookies or accept the terms and conditions, right? So inside of those terms and conditions, maybe you have already sold your data. So yes, I think for general public, it's always hard for them to understand privacy leaks behind all the conveniences, right? So I can't admit, right, for centralized training, centralized models, it will bring easier convenience to general public. But I think while those centric models exist, we'll still need to think about the decentralized ways or democratization ways that we can have the AI developments, right?
In your particular field, do you have a lot of competition?
In traditional industry, yes, especially federal learning, because it's a big thing. It's a big thing coming, especially in Europe. Well, now North America as well, because we all have a different legal frameworks for GDPR, HIPAA, right? Yes. So many companies are doing, especially in industries like healthcare and finance. So I guess normally people would think healthcare industry are so old school that they are hard to accept new technologies, right? But from my experience, also we have those demo use cases and actually paid use cases from healthcare industry. So they are actually very familiar with federated learning because every vendor is talking this to them. They are like the first ones to get educated by the market. So yeah, for many different countries, we talk to hospitals and they will say, oh yeah, federated learning, I know. Like there are some vendors talking to us already, and there are also successful vendors in the market who are doing healthcare federal learning. But in traditional industry, still, it's centralized control. So maybe you can get license from one country, but to expand, you will still try to negotiate, lobby with the policymakers, and it's not straightforward to make it, permissionless. Now to expand even if it's your federated learning technology. That's why we are trying to make it into an open source framework. So yeah, you don't. In a legal sense, it's like a framework that everyone can use, right? So you don't have to go through all those headaches for policymakers.
And what makes you stand out amongst your competition? What's unique to you, your company?
I would say the permissionless and openness of the framework. We just open everything. So people who want to join the training, they're just becoming one of the nodes in the public. So yeah, it's like fair and transparent for everyone. And all the auditable transactions that can be seen on chain, right? That's something that even we cannot change. It's all transparent there.
And is it really hard to to kind of like drive this forward, especially with so many? You mentioned like North America, you mentioned Europe there, with so many different countries and so many different regulations. Is it kind of a bit too complex? Would you like to see like one unified worldwide regulation
Worldwide
market?
regulation market. I guess that's hard to happen, right? But the good thing is for these two major markets, North America and Europe, we have some unified policymakers, right? So it makes things a bit easier. And first of all, and secondly, especially in research field where we publish a lot of papers nowadays about this, all the research focused efforts are quite open to privacy solutions because they know it's something that they have to step in. So I like the atmosphere there, right? Regulation is tight, but then when it comes to research, we're open to explore what's possible. And many of the hospitals, they even have their open data set for researchers to try out whether your privacy method works. So it's great.
It sounds like you're on a journey, and that journey
Mm-hmm.
seems to never stop. But like, how do you keep up to date with the latest developments? Like, especially considering the rapid pace of change in the industry.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. I guess for all the entrepreneurs, you have to stay up to date with the news and sometimes technologies in the world, right? Because it happens so quick. That's for sure, and especially the AI conferences. So, oh yeah, there's a joke. So, sorry, not joke, but there's a trend. Do before in academia, the top events or top places to publish your stuff is always the journals, right? But because AI happens so quick, the period of journal is always long, like a year or 2 years even. So now in AI industry, the top places to publish your stuff is on conferences, which happens maybe several times a year with different titled conferences. So you have to follow those because there might be something happening 3 months ago, and 3 months after there will be a new paper came out, and then beat that up already. So yeah, AI industry is moving so fast, especially from the publication you can understand, right? And now even for those top conferences, I think last time New Rips or ICML, oh, that's one of the conferences, they received like 20,000 applications. It's crazy. It's really
Wow,
crazy.
that's a large number, isn't it? Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
quite hectic to keep up with all that information. Do you find that you get a lot of insight and a lot of inspiration from these conferences?
Yeah, yes, of course, and because these are all peer-reviewed papers, even though there's 20,000 of them, but yeah, we still have a good reviewer group to check out the papers to validate the results, right? So yeah, whatever is out there, it's still worth a read, especially those award-winning papers. You definitely don't want to miss it.
And what tech trends are currently like catching your attention within the industry? And what are the driving factors behind their significance?
Smaller models. So I guess just like when it comes to a future AI world, we definitely know by now that huge models can possibly solve everything, despite the bias, but can possibly solve everything. So like superpowers like Microsoft, Google, they have like 700 billion or maybe soon 7,000 billion parameters, right, to get all the data from the world. But then what I am interested is how small large language models can actually achieve level that similar or same level of performance with maybe more quality data. So that's what Llama 3 is doing, where Meta published this. It's open source. They only use 8 billion parameters, but they use 7 times more data, more quality data to train it, and reached similar level to GPT 3.5. So yeah, so to me, it's always, yes, we can use cannons to hit the mosquitoes, right? Maybe, but then I always want to have the right tool for the right target. Yeah, brute force works. Brute force always works in AI. Just like old times when we do AlphaGo or when we do picture identification, we just pump a lot of neurons to neural networks. Of course, it somehow will work, right? But then it's a kind of a waste of your compute and kind of waste of your design. And if you're only always just doing that, it's not smart, it's not beautiful, it's not mathematically beautiful. I am personally very interested in something very neat and mathematically beautiful that can actually solve the problem in a right scale instead of a huge solution to a small tiny thing.
Could you just outline some of your primary focal points and any like ongoing projects or endeavors?
Ongoing projects, you mean from us or
Correct,
from?
yes.
Oh, from us. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
So we actually launched our training platform already. So it's like live now. Everyone can join training. It's decentralized and it's totally permissionless. Everyone can join and compete. So yeah, those are the recent progressions of us. And then we even work with decentralized GPU providers. So you can either use your own GPU at home, or you can actually use a decentralized GPU, like a cache they provide decentralizedly. And of course, you can also use centralized ones. So what we're trying to do is we want to become this sophisticated layer where we can collaborate with decentralized computes or decentralized data storages. So yeah, everything's under control of the user. They don't have to work with AWS and send everything to AWS S3, right? It's still under their own control, either in their own compute or their decentralized compute environments. That's what we built it already, and we welcome everyone to join and have fun.
And are you getting feedback already from your stakeholders in regards to this?
Yeah. So we have great community from Kaggle before, from Numerai, if you heard of them before, or Hugging Face. Basically, the machine learning engineers who used to own different platforms, now they're joining us and having very good feedbacks, especially the usability of the platform, because it's so smooth and so easy to use. So yeah, I think we're gaining a very core user base right now. Like they're so happy about what we are building right now. So great. Yeah. It's always good and happy to get feedbacks from OGs, right? They've been in other platforms before, and when they switch to a new platform, they give you great feedbacks. They know what works in in their past experience, right?
It's great to hear you getting that excellent feedback as well. So, in terms of this, has there any feedback which has caught you unawares or that you hadn't expected to be getting? Or are you
Oh,
like really efficient at predicting outcomes from feedback?
yo, that's a good term. So, I guess, yeah, from investors or from some researchers in the public who, yeah, of course, in research, there will always be different angles or different opinions, right? People might claim that centralized training is still the best way, of course, which I don't deny. I never deny that centralized training is still efficient and it might have a systematic change in the future when maybe GPT-5 or 6 came out, right? Because multimodal is a thing soon, right? So yes, of course. But then what my point or our company or all the disruptors in this decentralized AI industry trying to tackle is, while we have a great system, for example, Microsoft or Mac OS, we still need Linux, right? We still need the freedom for people to actually have their own distributed in Linux if they want, and install something open source that they can trust instead of giving all the face to macOS, right? So I guess for us is we never, and it's hard also for startups to say that they are competing with Google, but for us is we are actually trying to promote this decentralized training framework. So if we are not going with Google, if you are not going with the Google route, then still have an option to train your own model in a decentralized way instead of having to pay your API fees to GPTs, right? So it can be very expensive. So think about your use case. If you're having a consumer app, a killer consumer app, but have to pay API keys to OpenAI, then majority of your revenue might just drain out by OpenAI, right?
So we've talked a bit about the past, we've talked about the present, but let's look in the direction of the future. So, like, what does the future of the tech landscape look like to you?
I think you mean the general AI industry, or yeah,
Yeah.
I think general AI industry similarly as I mentioned. I think centralized service providers will be a big hit, especially when they have progresses in their fundamental models. Like GPT, I guess, yeah, they were still just leading the industry. That's great. It's great to see, but also open source disruptors will caught up. I'm so grateful that Meta is so on this, right? Yang LeCun, they are so on the open source side. They're just, although Yang LeCun is actually a good friend with Elon, but they always debate on Twitter. But then yeah, they have a similar ideology about, we actually have to open source those AI to make sure the community can check the results instead of having those scandals which Google Gemini had when they first came out, right? The quite biased result by their multimodal algorithms. So that's scary. And one thing that I always want to mention is because of GPT, which debuted 2016, the first version, human data is already not authentic anymore, right? There are full with synthetic data and generated content already. So if there is a bias happening in GPT-1 and GPT-2 is getting the public data which is biased already by GPT-1, then it will amplify the bias. And then GPT-3, GPT-4, because they thought that's how human beings think. But no, it's because your previous generation created those or amplified those bias. So it can be a very, very catastrophic black hole effect when we don't actually have any evaluation process on hands of the community, right? So that's where I think the decentralized AI community or open source AI community trying to solve.
So we've talked there about one of the disadvantages of the AI in terms of former past modeling programs. What kind of areas is AI being over exaggerated, or maybe it's being bigged up too much in the media? Are there any particular areas?
Like killing people, killing human beings? yeah. So I still think, from the perspective of person understand what's happening behind AI, I definitely don't think there's kind of like a sophistication at this stage of AI that's happening. So everything that you see is how they mimic the way that we did in our corpus, in our conversation content in the before, right? It's not that they have that sophistication. It's because they know or they see so many times people reply like that, so they do the same. So I think that doomsday stuff. Not there yet, but I can't be sure. As of today, we call conversation. Yes, I don't think it's there. But then I don't know what will happen in the GPT-5 or 6, right? Because we see the drama happening on the OpenAI executive teams, right? So maybe they see something that we can't see right now. Maybe that's somewhere there. But it's hard because still it's program. It's still program. It's still learning from the corpus. The fundamental of it didn't really change, right? Unless we're giving it more interesting designs for generative neurons or something like a reinforced neurons that they can chat with themselves to evolve themselves. But yeah, for now, I see it okay.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. It's really interesting to get your insight, especially in this particular field. We are slightly coming to the end of the interview, unfortunately. But can we just talk a little bit more about yourself and your entrepreneurial skills? So can you just talk to me? Like, do you wear lots of hats in your company? Do you do lots of different roles, or do you primarily just do the one thing?
For a founder and CEO, you have to. Like, for example, in the early days, you can't really hire, or you don't really want to spend your budget to hire a CMO, right? So you have to be that CMO to help you do the marketing yourself, because that's what you have to do. Yes, and then I'm a technical founder, so so far we still don't really hire CTOs because I hands-on on my technology myself, right? And also CEO stuff for the operation business. Yeah, well, in the business within our own company and stuff. So yeah, so many hats that you have to wear, and then especially, especially for a technical founder, you have even more things to do. You have to govern the whole quality control of the product, everything, and also we are a research-focused team, so we still need to draft papers, try to submit, compete with other PhD students in the world, or trying to submit and get through that 20,000 submissions as I told you before, right? So yeah, it's hard. It's a lot of jobs, but the good thing is you have the passion of your project. You know that it's gonna work, and you know that you're going to deliver. So yeah, having those and then just spend tons of time on your work. That's what a founder should do. I don't blame it. Who else can do it, right? You can't rely on someone else, or you can't just have a lineup of C-levels from day one. It's hard. It's generally hard.
And if there's an aspiring entrepreneur out there, someone like you, who may be thinking about jumping into being an entrepreneur, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, to identify your personal skill set, where you can do, where you can't, right? Because in the early days, I don't even think I'm the type of the CMO person myself, because I think I regard myself as quite a technical guy, but then I realized there are much more things I have to expand my skill set in, right? So, but there are people, I definitely see there are people who are not comfortable with public facing, who are not comfortable with the marketing skill set. So yeah, to make sure that you understand what full skill set you need to have in your executive teams, and then to make sure you have the right people around you to form your core team that can actually help you to compensate, different skill sets that you have to, when it comes to startups, yeah, for example, financing, when it comes to financing rounds, right? Maybe you never had those experience before, then you have to have someone actually in the space who can tell you, okay, what actually financing, how actually financing works when it comes to fundraising, right? So yeah, it's hard, but yeah, always the advice is look into those experience from other funders before, right? Trying to list out the skill sets you have already, or you and your co-founder had already, and then yeah, to hire someone senior in the beginning. Because from my experience, if you just try to expand your team in a low budget way and then hire a lot of junior, one day you feel like it's actually a waste of money, because right, so a 10 wrong person doesn't really give you a good traction, but one right person in the beginning that actually give you a great momentum for growth.
Perfect. And that is gold. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. So Jiahao, I just want to thank you again so much for talking with me today. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and great to be on this show. Yeah.
That was Jiahao Sun, co-founder and CEO at Flock.
Thank you, Barry.